Hello everyone, Daria here, your Russian language teacher. And since I'm on vacation now, I thought that it would be interesting finally to answer some of your questions about the Russian language. And today's question comes from Chad Andrews. He asked me to talk about вы and ты in the Russian language. So let's get started. I guess you already know that in the Russian language we have two ways of addressing a person. It's ты and вы. Вы is more respectful, it's for older people, for strangers, or someone you don't know very well. And ты is for your friends, for your family, and for people of the same age, for peers. And the first question from Chad is, do people switch from вы to ты if a relationship grows, changes, and so on? And of course, yes, not always. Sometimes it's just вы through the whole period of time. But most of the times, if people know each other with some period of time. And of course, we start saying ты. So when you meet someone, first it's вы, but after some period of time, when you meet that person again, when you make friends with them, of course, you can start addressing them with ты. And the second question from Chad is how to switch from вы to ты, because even for Russians, this question is actually very difficult, and very often it happens that you feel embarrassed and uncomfortable and don't know how to offer to switch to ты. So how to do that? First way is actually to ask. You can offer давай перейдем на ты. So let's switch to ты. Давай перейдем на ты. Or maybe in a question form. Перейдем на ты. So let's switch to ты. And nothing bad if that person doesn't agree. Well, okay, you just keep saying вы. But most of the time, of course, they will accept your offer, and from that period of time, you will start saying ты to each other. So one way is actually to offer, to ask. The second way, it happens when you're drinking with someone, and we call it Bruderschaft. Выпить на Bruderschaft. So you cross your hands, your arms with that person, and you drink and you kiss him or her in the cheeks. And from that moment, you start to say ты to each other. You will see that scene in many Russian and Soviet movies, so you will know that kissing and drinking like that is the way to start saying ты to each other. But this one is very informal. The third question is how to use ты and вы at work with your colleagues and especially with your boss. Here it depends on the place you're working at. For example, I used to work in the Russian State Library, and there we were addressing each other with вы and only like that. And after that, I worked in British School of Design, and from the very first day, they said that here we call each other with ты and only like that. And it was very uncomfortable. There were many people much older than I was, and for me it was really difficult to get used to it. It's really difficult to say ты to some older person. And so it depends on the rules inside of that corporation. So I guess you will understand. But I don't know, usually it's вы, and if it's better to say ты there, people will just let you know. So no problem here. The next question, how to use it inside the family. Of course, with your close relatives, I mean father, mother, brother, sister, it's ты, ты. No matter if your parents are older than you, of course you say ты. Ты, mama, papa, брат, сестра. And grandparents too. They can be very old, but of course, grandchildren say ты to them. It's a little bit different with you know, relatives that are not that close. Some aunts, uncles, someone living far away, maybe cousins. There, it again depends on situation. Usually, you start with we, and after that, you can easily switch to the. Again, depends on your relationships. So it's up to each single person to decide which way to choose. And the last thing I want to say is if you come to Russia, for example, some Russian language school, and you don't know how to address people, maybe some students of your own age and your tutor, or some strangers on the street, don't worry. The easiest way to do it is say we to everyone, even if it's a person of your age, your own status, it doesn't matter. Always say we, and you will never get in uncomfortable situation. If that person offers you to say ты, it's perfect. You start saying ты, but first use the polite form with everyone. Even with children, why not? You can use we even with children. It's just being polite and respectful. And that was it for today. Don't forget that you can subscribe to my free email course on my website. It's realrussianclub.com/subscribe. I will be very happy to see you there. And thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.